pizza is such a human eating experience, and for a bit, which made sense at the time for the brand, they were doubled down on like a lot of what I call like product porn advertising. But I think that being able to bring a layer of humanity to that and find those like heartstring tuggable moments, as I like to say, is an added layer that we're trying to push a little bit more of.
This is the Snarketing Podcast, for marketers by marketers, talking to marketers with just a touch of snark. Now, here are your hosts, Valerie Vespa and Matt Wurst.
We welcome you to episode 6 of the Snarketing Podcast. I am Matt Wurst.
And I am Valerie Vespa.
And we are so excited to be back with you for yet another episode where we are talking with, learning from, being informed by a brilliant marketing executive in the space. But we will get to her in a second. Before we do, Valerie, can you believe that the summer is like almost over? Is your son coming home from sleepaway camp soon?
It's August, and he's coming home this week. This week?
Yeah.
It's insane. How about yours?
My daughter is coming home this Sunday. It's been 7 weeks. We are excited to see her. Hopefully there are no tears upon her leaving behind her summer home and friends. But I will tell you, there might be, maybe not tears, but I don't know about you. I am a little bit more, if not significantly more productive when my kids are away at sleepaway camp.
Beyond. I've been out every night this week.
Well, for personal reasons or for professional?
Both.
All right, good for you. You're balancing your life, a work-life balance. Clearly that scale will be tipped in a different direction, maybe not in one way or another, but things certainly change when our kids come home.
We call this the seen and the heard.
So what's really funny about the first 5 episodes, I think, is that we've talked to very different people, but they are all very good people. And maybe that's an indication of who we are as people, that we attract
I'd like to think so.
solid connections and networking. But I was reading a really interesting article in the last week, and I don't remember where it is, but maybe I'll throw the link to it somewhere in one of our social channels. Plug for our new LinkedIn page.
Yay.
But the article basically was alluding to the fact that it is nearly impossible to be a successful marketer if you are an introvert. And look, you and I are not introverts, but there are different roles across the marketing ecosystem. I find it hard for a generalization like that to be accurate. But I'm curious if you gravitate towards people who are more of one thing than another in this space, or if you found any successful traits that are a common thread through people you know.
You know, it's so funny that I love that statement. I actually think it's provocative and controversial, and maybe kind of mean to those people who consider themselves introverts, who are CMOs, who think they're successful. But the first thing that came to my mind was like, are there brands that are introverted brands? Because I think as a CMO, you're the voice of the brand.
I mean, it's an interesting point. I hadn't actually thought about it that way, but yeah, brands have personalities, they have purposes, but in marketing, the job is to communicate a message and resonate and connect with others. I think introverts can do that, extroverts can do that. It's really a personal style that you lean into based on different situations. And I am really intrigued by your question, and I don't know that I can think of many that aren't overtly in your face, but I'm sure there are. What do any come to mind for you?
I mean, I think those that are looking for mass scale, I think Burger King is in your face with the king.
You know, the social media channels of a number of brands don't always align with their personality, and you hear these uh, these social media managers who are trying to stir the pot or speak provocatively, like Steakum or Wendy's, which, again, maybe these are brands that have a personality, but they are not out there and overtly, almost borderline aggressive in the way that their social media channels are. Do you find that some of the out of home work or creative that you see sometimes doesn't align with what you think a brand should be sounding like?
I I think there tends to be a lack of contextual relevancy in messaging. I think in order to connect, especially in the out of home environment, like it's you have to be kind of succinct and brief, but also be relevant to like the local nuances. And I don't think that's often done very well. And could be utilized in a better way to have like a voice that's still the brands, but like speaking to the people of the community better. But anyway, that's me getting on my soapbox. But yes,
Well, look, the good news is whether we like the creative or not, reports indicate, I'm making air quotes for you, dear listener, reports indicate that ad spending is starting to go up as inflation metrics and indices are falling, and whether you're and look, some of the leading indicator brands are Unilever, L'Oreal, P&G, Kimberly Clark, Nestle, and those are reporting that their ad spends are up. So I'm hopeful that that will also bring with it investments in creative and experiential and innovative omni-channel experimentation. But I guess we'll see
agreed.
as Q3 heats up, as back to school turns into Halloween, turns into holiday. I mean, are you
My
ready? Are
gosh.
you ready for holiday? Are we
Uh,
ready for it?
when does the Christmas music start
I
in
mean, I think we
stores?
could. Why don't we just layer it in now to this podcast?
We could finish it. Yeah, we could finish it with some Christmas music.
Well, I think the season that I'm most looking forward to is a return of fall sports. For me as a sports fan, that's fun. I know the marketer and the brand that we are about to talk to does a lot in the sports spheres across multiple sports. Maybe it's something we can talk about with our guest, but she is someone that you and I know and have had a lot of respect for as she's navigated her career.
Beyond. She's so impressive.
She's impressive, but she's also just fun to talk with,
Yes.
and I'm excited for this conversation. Is there anything that you are looking forward to asking or learning about from her?
Yes, there's a particular product alignment with Doritos that I really would like to learn more about because I thought it was one of the most fabulous launches of a food product I've seen in a while.
Well, this is the year of collaboration, but I am excited to talk to her. Jaclyn Ruelle, the VP, head of brand at Papa John's. Look, pizza is a category, it is a vertical unto itself. I am excited to talk to her and ask her about how she prioritizes her audiences. Because for me, their target consumer is everyone with a mouth. So let's jump in now and talk with Jaclyn.
Say hello to the smart and talented Jaclyn Ruelle, who is Vice President and Head of Brand at Papa John's. Better ingredients, better pizza, Papa John's. Better insights, better marketing, Jaclyn Ruelle.
Welcome, Jaclyn. Thank you for joining us here on the Snarketing Podcast. It is so wonderful to have you here.
Thank you so much for having me. I feel so lucky to be on with you both.
Well, I wouldn't say that it's luck. I think as you've orchestrated your entire career, it's based on a combination of skill and really just getting to know people and putting yourself in a position to succeed. And I think that's a great place for us to start as we jump in and learn more about you and what you do. How's that
That
sound?
sounds like a great plan.
Okay. And what I love about your background, because you and I met earlier this year, but you and Val have known each other for a long time, is that you come from an agency background and so do we. So I think that automatically makes us kindred spirits. But as someone who has been a longtime agency leader, What prompted you to actually make that jump from, you went what? Martin, Mullen, Meridian, a lot of M
Yeah.
name
Apparently, I
agencies.
only take gigs at M agencies.
You didn't want to go work at McGarry, Bowen, or Merkel, apparently, but that's
Yeah.
okay. I'm sure you've had other opportunities, though, to make a move across the table, so to speak, before. So why Papa John's? Why now?
Yeah, it's such a good question. Well, the reality is I wasn't actively looking. So this opportunity landed in my LinkedIn inbox, as we shall say. And the brand was looking for someone a little bit different from a brand leader perspective. They were actually looking for someone with agency expertise. So shout out to the recruiter who was very well studied on the work that I had been doing and the role at Martin Agency where I had built and propped up the Cultural Impact Lab. He was like amazingly well studied on what I had done there, which was very inspiring. And I had kind of had a little bit of an itch to venture to client side, I'll say, to just learn what it would be like and feel like and look like if I was a client one day. I've had the great fortune to have worked with so many amazing marketers on the agency side that were my brand clients. I kind of just always wondered in the back of my mind, like, could I do that one day? Could I go be a great client? And so when the call came in, it was one of those things where I was like, okay, they don't tell you what the brand is. And so I got on the phone and I'm like, can you just please tell me who the brand is? Because that's going to make or break the next 45 minutes of this conversation.
By the way, I would love to know which brands you would have said no to outright, but we can save that for a
Well, yeah,
follow-up
let's do that as a
conversation.
part two. And here's the thing. I don't know if I would know what I would have said outright to, but I think what was so appealing about it being Papa John's on the other side of the phone per se is I knew that it was a brand that had endured a crisis. They were on a turnaround and a transition from said crisis. And there was a lot of opportunity of the new venture of the brand with a very young, rebuilt leadership team. So what I understood the opportunity to be is that I could actually affect and provoke change. And there wasn't going to be what I call like a lot of like legacy leftover feeling of like jumping to a brand and hearing the like, oh, but we've done that before. Oh, but we've tried that before. It actually presented an opportunity where I believed I could jump in and create immediate impact. And I think that was really important to me. I like to kind of consider myself as a bit of a change agent. So to understand that it was still a brand in a transition of this is a new Papa John's, there's an opportunity to take the brand on its next evolution. That felt really interesting and thought provoking for me. And I felt like if that was going to be my leap to go agency to client side, and also getting to still be immersed in the creative process where I get to lead the agency relationships day to day. So it kept me a little bit connected to my core. So I wasn't totally doing all things brand new. I would just get to jump to the other side. So I think those were really the key things. Also, it's pizza. So I think when you think about a product that you want to prop up and stand for in the world and get more people eating pizza, it's a universally beloved food. So that also felt good. It's like I wasn't going to try and sell something that I wasn't a personal fan of because I don't know people that don't like pizza. So it felt like it was a product that I could get behind that I also was personally invested in as a consumer.
I feel like you leading the cultural impact team over at Martin and in doing that with such great success, like doing some of the most amazing work there. I would imagine that really helped you in the beginning stages of figuring out what your role was going to be there. I would imagine that changing the culture and resetting it sort of was a huge part of that, right?
Yeah, it totally was. And I think the fact that I got to build something from the ground up at the Martin Agency, I got to embrace a bit of an entrepreneurial vibe there with the backing of a fantastic agency, which was helpful. But I think the trials and tribulations of building something helped me when I kind of leapt over the fence and landed in a new place where there's still a ton of learning that I'm unpacking every single day. But it allowed me to have a little bit of a footing, if you will, to feel like I could embark upon this new adventure. And just working at Martin and building the lab kind of, I would say it honed my gut a little bit more, where I could feel a little bit more confident in decision making, but also knowing how to go grab what I need to make smart decisions, which has really paid off on the Papa John side, as I've just been immersed in a new culture and a new way of thinking and a new way of learning and a new way of shepherding work out into the world.
That said, like, what has been the most like surprising thing in your new role that you weren't kind of maybe expecting, or whether you were prepared or unprepared? What comes to mind?
Yeah, I think about this often because I'm actually like working towards I'll celebrate 1 year in September, which it's wild that it's already been a year. I know it's been crazy,
Amazing.
but I think about this often. I'm like, I should do a 1 year reflection on LinkedIn. Of course, I'm like already thinking about that. But I was actually thinking about this the other day. I think the what I would call immersive business acumen opportunity. And what I mean by that is at the agency, you only get as far immersed in a client, as I would say, as they bring you into their brand, or as well as you could potentially study a brand. But
Right.
there's nothing like being at like the spouts of the fire hose, if you will, and learning how a business functions and learning the franchise operations. We're 80% franchise, 20% corporate owned, and understanding the trials and tribulations of how a business makes money. And I think that has been hugely interesting to me. I'm a learner at the core and at my heart. And I think being able to flex my brain in a space where honestly it just hasn't been taken before, and just truly understanding the inner workings of a business, it helps me looking back, and I'm like, oh, I understand why sometimes things don't get sold through, or I understand, having been agency side, why things have felt harder sometimes on the other side. And so what I've tried to do is take that internally, what I'm learning, but also be a good steward of the brand's business with my agency partners to try and bring them in as close as I can. So the work that we're doing together allows them to feel more kind of baked into the brand, but also so that we're creating work that obviously like moves the needle and helps to drive the bottom line. So I think that's probably been the hurdle that I knew I was going to have. I just didn't know how big it was going to be. So I am constantly working to make sure I'm paying attention to like the maniacal numbers that are in the game, and just that as we look at the competitive landscape, even that's probably been the biggest thing. And then the second thing I'll talk about is when you're at an agency, you learn about like the art of the sell, right? And like selling an idea. And it's interesting to take that knowledge and skill set over to the other side, because I still have to take the idea that the agencies sold me and sell it, up the food chain and across to my peers. And so I think what I celebrate from the agency side, which having spent as long as almost 17 years agency side, it allowed me to feel good about how to sell an idea. I just have different people I have to sell it to now. But I think that's been hugely helpful, is that I had enough of that under my belt that it's allowed me to just think about the different audience I have to sell to internally to try and take the agency idea and make sure I sell it up the food chain on my side.
Well, and your brand, the company, historically and even recently, is known as a brand that takes or is willing to take some creative risks. That must have been an appealing opportunity in terms of the way it presented itself as you're evaluating where you are, what you want to be doing. Did you find that people are more receptive than even you thought to some of the creative ideas as you've gotten now your hands deep in the crust?
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for the recognition. I'm glad that you see us as a brand that take risks. I mean, listen, I think it depends on the idea. I think that there are moments and times where maybe there's more receptivity than others, but um, I think that's also part of the reason why I came, and what they were looking for is to bring another level of breakthrough to the advertising. So something that I think a lot about every day is pizza is such a it's such a human eating experience, and for a bit, which made sense at the time for the brand, they were doubled down on like a lot of what I call like product porn advertising, which was beautiful and craveable. And we are always going to need a level of that because we need to make people salivate through the screen and go order a pizza or a papadilla or whatever it is of the moment from us. But I think that being able to bring a layer of humanity to that and find those like heartstring tuggable moments, as I like to say, is an added layer that we're trying to push a little bit more of into the brand, so that they're not just coming for like our cheese pulls, if you will. They're coming because they recognize like we stand for something a little bit more. So listen, I think we've got a ways to go, but I'm very fond of the work that we've been able to do in almost my year there, because I think that we've already started to differentiate ourselves from what's in the category, and I'm hopeful that there's more to come in that avenue.
So you said one of the two words that I was about to say, which are ranch papadilla. So
Yeah.
obviously, like big trend, cross-brand collaboration, obviously driving Gen Z attention. Can you talk about how that collaboration came to be, and how you look at collaborations like that future forward?
Yeah. So this is probably one of my, if not the most favorite thing that we've done to date. We have incredible partnership with PepsiCo. And obviously with that comes the Frito-Lay culinary arm of the PepsiCo brand. So they're our exclusive bev partner that we
Right.
sell through in all of our restaurants. And so I think that it brings us like a great wealth of opportunity to be able to look at that cross collaboration with the brand like Frito Lay. And so this was like a beloved idea even before I started. I just got to wrap my arms around it, which was awesome. It's just looking inside the partnerships we have and like how can we accelerate some of the great things we already have going with the brand like Pepsi. And so it definitely, wheels were in motion. Before I started, we just wanted to put a really amazing creative wrapper around it. And the beautiful thing is the Cool Ranch Doritos audience and Doritos as a whole, they have this amazing stranglehold on an audience like Gen Z. Like they are a Gen Z brand through and through. And with Papa John's, that's definitely an audience that we're gravitating towards, but like we don't have as many of those Gen Zers kind of like in our customer base as Doritos does, right? And so it's an amazing growth opportunity for us to partner with the Doritos and like what I like to say, stretch down a little bit to look for that next gen customer. And so as we thought about the collaboration and how it came together, we were really able to take that Doritos audience and put that lens at the forefront of the idea to think about how are we going to go pull that audience in and then double down on the existing core audience that we have with Papa John's. So it enabled us to do things like amplify content by way of TikTok, which we are there. It's one of the more explosive channels for us at Papa John's, but certainly the partnership with the influencers that we worked with allowed us to just create a little bit more of a prominence in a platform like TikTok. And by partnering with Doritos, I think we got some of that fan cred and that kind of cultural cachet brought over from Doritos into our brand that allowed us to speak a little bit more, eloquently to the Gen Z audience and like got them to pay a little bit more attention to us, quite honestly. So that actually has leveled us into an opportunity that we're going to continue to build on. It's like, okay, we've got their attention a little bit more now. How do we continue to speak to them moving forward? So we actually, I'm glad we're talking today. It's good timing. We actually just launched a new campaign today. The TV will start airing today, where we partnered with a TikTok beat maker by the name of Ricky Desktop. He's known for a lot of the viral beats that have proliferated TikTok, I'll say, since like COVID hit back in 2020. And he actually made us a custom beat for our TV spot, which launched a new pizza today, which is the garlic epic stuffed crust pizza, which was inspired by our fan love of our garlic sauce, which of course is an iconic part of every pizza delivery and order that our fans have known to know and love and talk about quite extensively and organically on social channels. So that has been exciting about what Doritos also opened the gates for us to do moving forward.
Insane. I mean, oh, sorry. I saw the t-shirts in the NBA tunnel.
Yeah.
That was unreal.
I have to talk about like that was probably like my favorite part of the campaign. I mean, we did so many layers. Shout out to my friends at Excel Sports because they helped us pull that off with like flying colors. And also we used Excel Sports and CAA Sports. I should give both of them a shout out. I'm like, I can't even tell you, like I was like holding my breath for the game that night. But I wanted to lean into cultural trends that are a little outside of the pizza category, but we know that the Gen Zers are paying attention to. And that I've been wanting to do a tunnel drip idea for a while. It just, the stars aligned and we like made a cool piece of merch and we found two teams and players that were willing to lean in and let us do it. But the fact that we got one of each player from the Knicks and Miami on the same night, the double whammy of that experience was, as they say, chef's kiss, right?
Well, I'm just disappointed that as you were talking through that entire incredible story, you didn't actually do any of the beatboxing.
Oh my God.
That would have teased the great audio campaign, but I think we'll just have to dub that in later.
Well, yeah,
if we can make
we'll
a
have
note to our editors.
Later. I know. I would not do the beat justice.
Well, I wonder you talk about the Gen Z customer, and I'm curious why that is a priority given that everybody loves pizza, as you mentioned.
Yeah.
Do you see growth opportunities with them, or is it more that it was just an untapped market for the business?
For sure, there's a growth opportunity. I mean, it's interesting just having my role and being out in the world. A lot of people that I'll just say, oh, I'm leading the brand at Papa John's. They will hearken back to say to me, oh, that was my pizza in college. And so I think a lot of times I just think about those anecdotal remarks because there's like a new regime, these Gen Zers in college that like decide what their pizza is going to be. And albeit probably, a late night bite, like that's an incredible customer for us. And I think we also have to just think about, we've built up an amazing audience over time, but like the boomers that have been with us for a while, like they're eventually going to like age out or pass on quite literally from our category and from our brand. And so it's like, how do we get smart about filling the funnel with whoever that next gen customer is? I also continue to be so amazed by the power of Gen Z and what they do to shift literally positively shift a brand. I think when they grab hold of a brand, like whatever it is, it food, clothing, like the Barbie movie, like you name it. I just feel like when they grab hold of a brand and positively kind of inject all their Gen Z-ness into it, like the things that we've seen skyrocket out of Gen Z, I'm hopeful that we can continue to strike the right chord for them and we become one of their beloved brands. Because
Well, no pressure, Gen Z,
I
right? You
know.
got to keep getting it right, right?
Yeah,
Hopefully,
no,
they
but
continue to steer things in the right direction.
totally. But they're a generation of movements, right? And I just think when they tap in the right way with brands, and brands tap in the right way with them, is probably the way I should have started that sentence. I just think that there's a beautiful thing that can happen, and they have a really incredible power of influence. And I think we'd be remiss if we weren't paying attention to what they're doing right now.
So like outside of the great creative work that you're doing, and like there's nothing like to me like looking at like a reel or something of someone going around New York and tasting different pizza slices and telling me which ones are the best ones. Like pizza is a full-on obsession. There's rivalries, New York, Chicago. Is that really even pizza? Like so much talk about it. So like, what do you think for, clearly Gen Z is like the sweet spot for you. Like, do you think product innovation is outside of the amazing creative work? Like, do you think that's the kicker there for you?
Yeah. I mean, listen, I think we can't survive without it. Shout out to the team that paved the way before me. I've got a great peer, Kimberly Bean, that leads all of our VP of menu strategy and innovation. And I think, if we don't innovate, like we might die off. It's like we have to continue to find ways to infuse new pizza inventions like into our own brand even. It's interesting, prior to me coming, there was a lot of talk with the prior regime, like they never touched the crust. The crust was a very iconic part of the brand. It still is. Our dough is fresh, never frozen. We don't have freezers in any of our restaurants, which is a really important part of our kind of brand ingredient story. We only use 6 ingredients. But I think the power of saying like, okay, we never touched the crust before. Like, why don't we stuff the crust with cheese? Why don't we, with this latest pizza invention that we just launched, our garlic epic stuffed crust, we're putting seasoning inside with the cheese. We're baking a garlic parm sauce on the outside, and then you still get your amazing dip cup of the garlic that you're dunking your crust in. And so we have to lean in. I know, I'm going to make everyone.
By the way, I'm pretty sure this is a job that I would be qualified for, despite having no professional experience.
As a taste
just having
tester?
eaten plenty of pizza.
Yeah.
So we'll talk about this later, but I'd like to send you my resume of
Let's
pizza
do it.
consumption.
Let's do it. But I think the important part is like we have to continue to innovate to stay relevant. There are so many trends in the food category as a whole, and a lot of that is because like there's different evolving consumer behaviors as it relates to food. And so whether it's a flavor or testing out a new ingredient, or earlier this year, we baked Parmesan onto the bottom of the pizza and actually gave an extra cheese flavor on the bottom. It's because, it's like, we know people love cheese. Let's try to put it in a different place. I think
you probably end up, that sticks to the plate though, doesn't it? I feel like you end up eating the plate.
It was crusted enough so it didn't stick.
Okay. I'm sure you tested it.
Yes. Yeah, there's a lot of testing that goes into that. But I think, we have to survive by way of product innovation. And I also think it's the way that we keep our customers coming back for more, but also bring in some of those new customers that maybe haven't given us a try, but all of a sudden we're doing something that's a little unique that kind of perks up their interest.
And that's where the positive feedback loop of social media, I think, becomes important. Valerie actually turned me on to this. There was a TikTok on how someone found a Papa John's website, and instead of trying to heat up your slice of pizza, you make it into a grilled cheese stack.
Oh, yeah.
Right?
2 slices.
So instead of heating it up in a pan, I don't know, have you tried this? I feel like this is going to change everything again for you guys too.
There's so many hacks. Or there's a crowd favorite, the reheating in the air fryer. That's also a crowd favorite.
I do that.
Okay.
So moving on to a couple fun questions. These were fun questions, but a little bit more cheeky. So
we'll let Jaclyn be the judge whether they're fun or not. All right.
Fair point. We'll just add my laugh talk track in between. So our common thread is our love of Boston, and namely the Boston Celtics.
That's right.
I know your
You guys have
husband.
that in common. Let's just be clear, by the way. That's you guys.
Matt's not on
Okay,
board with the
sorry.
Celtics. Well, this one
I
might be.
I I don't dislike the Celtics. It's just I don't share that love. So I'll back out of this
All right. Well,
conversation. You guys
you're
carry on.
outvoted right now.
I'm going on mute. And
So, are there any sort of interesting professional sports alignments that you're thinking about in the coming, current ones, or maybe I don't know if you can speak to future forward, but
Yeah. Well, here's what
where
I say. Like, sports is such a captive pizza eating moment in general. I think we have a lot of love for all sports and sports fans. I'll say we've been unpacking a lot of new data around our current and future state of customers we're in the early days of working on our plans for next year, but there's not necessarily like a key sports partnership that I can speak to, but I think, we're gearing up for football season. That's an incredible moment in time for us. And it being just such an iconic pizza eating occasion. We always show up well during football season between college and NFL. There's a lot to play with there from a consumer behavioral standpoint. Like if we could own everybody's tailgates and it's overflowing with Papa John's pizzas, we will have done our job. So it's a really important season for us. I'd say like football season in general is an important moment for us as we look ahead to the fall.
do you guys deliver to parking lots at football stadiums? Could we phone that order
You
in?
know what? I don't know that we've technically got that mapped out, but what I would say is like we should figure that out.
you know
I
what?
think this could be a campaign right here.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
love it. I have a good friend of mine that works at the Martin Agency. She always told me, she's like, I'm the mom in the summer at the pool who gets like the Papa John's delivery to the pool. And it's like all the other moms are like, wait, why didn't I think of that? But
Brilliant, brilliant.
yeah, pizza can be delivered to anywhere with an address, right? As long as you're there to receive
Absolutely.
it, right?
So, you know, you had mentioned it earlier. You worked closely with Kristen Cavallo for quite some time, and she's a powerhouse.
Yeah.
Who inspires you today? Do you still have, mentors you've had for years? And whose
Yeah.
ideas do you steal from regularly?
Oh, that's so funny. I know. I was like, when I was prepping, I was like, a good Steve Jobs quote once said, like, steal with pride. Um, Here's what it's like. Kristen, definitely love her, adore her. She will always be a mentor of mine. I think, it's funny. I spend a ton of time on LinkedIn. It's like my social network of choice. Some days I'll say because I like to follow the class of leaders that are the current kind of up and coming. I'm looking at a lot of CMOs right now. I think what EOS is doing, Lip Balm, incredible what they're doing there. I think
Incredible.
I look a lot to like the Netflixes, the Hulus, the HBO Maxes of the world. Or shall I just say Max now? Everyone's like reducing their
God.
names.
Yeah.
I know.
Brand matters,
I
guys. Brand
know.
matters. So we got to get it right.
I look a lot to what's going on in streaming, just how they are reinventing the way that they're going to market with content. It's like to binge or not to binge. Are you like dripping it out 1 week at a time and forcing people to come back? Or like, are you like dropping the mother load at once? I think I could not unsee anything that Mattel was doing for Barbie, which has just been probably one of the most iconic launches of anything I've seen in a really long time. I can't even understand all the brand collabs that happened. I'm like so jealous of all the brand collabs. I'm like, we should have done a pizza.
I mean, did they have to like hire additional people just to
I
deal with the
know.
brand collabs? I mean, how does
Unclear.
one or two
I
people
want
do?
to spend like hours with their team unpacking that, right? Also, I love to look and learn from music. It's like Taylor Swift is in a realm like of her own, but I think like looking at album releases across any genre of any artist, I like to study how they go to market because they often have these rabid fandoms that'll like stay up till midnight to wait for an album release or like go to a secret listening part, whatever it is. I like to steal a lot from how music makes its way into market because I just think it's a different way outside of the QSR category. And then, I love everything McDonald's has been doing lately. I think they're killing it. If I like look back within the QSR brand, like certainly we like study with the passion what our core competitor base is doing in pizza, but I often like to step outside of our own category and just try and understand how other brands are going to market and just look in other creative spaces and industries just to see what I can take from. So yeah, like I said, like on any given day, I'm like seeing what the most talked about campaign or moment is on LinkedIn and just kind of diving in and understanding what's going on right now. And I'm currently reading like Marcus Collins released his book on culture. So I'm like a third of the way into his book and just loving it. I've always followed him on LinkedIn. So I was like, okay, let me pre-order the book. Let me kind of nosedive in. So when I'm at the pool on the weekends, that's my read of choice that I'm kind of studying as well. And it's interesting, like my husband's a big Budweiser fan, and like the chapter I just read was all about the original like "What's Up" campaign.
Oh, that was,
And it
I
was
mean, iconic
cool.
from
Yeah.
99, 2000. Yeah.
Yeah.
The Philly guys.
Let's throw it back to 99 for a minute. But it was cool just to understand the origins of that campaign that came out of a creative director studying a 3-minute short that was put out by a music producer. So like, again, like stealing from the music industry, I think is a lot of where my head goes quite often.
Well, I'll give you a free idea that you can steal.
Oh.
So, a former agency of mine that I worked at, we worked with another QSR that makes sandwiches that may or may not be around 12 inches long, and all of our reports were like bar graphs that look like different subs and sandwiches.
So funny.
So for your reports, you may already do this, but do they all like are they pie charts that in the shape of pizzas?
I'm like, actually, they're not.
Okay, well, there you go. There is your creative inspiration for the day.
I can't
That
wait
only
to
your
watch
team
the
would see.
Data
'Cause it's not,
Insights team, guys.
yeah, you're not gonna put that on TikTok, but for your own team, it might inspire.
Did
They're
you
incredible.
prefer seeing subs like submarine sandwiches?
I thought they thought it was clever, so clearly, as an agency guy, we had to do whatever we could to keep our clients happy. So that was a lesson for me.
Well said. Well said.
Yeah.
So talking about trends, what do you think is some of the most overhyped trends right now or topics that are, LinkedIn is talking about today?
I mean, I hate to say this because we need to embrace it, but like AI, I know I didn't go to Cannes this year, and everyone that I talked to, I was like, what did I miss? And they were like, oh, everybody was just talking about AI. And like, and everybody kind of said it in that way, as if it was
terrible.
Like the overhyped thing to say. Now, listen, like I do think there's a lot of benefit, and I don't think it's going away. I just, it kind of reminds me when like all the NFT craze was happening, and I think it makes sense for certain brands. Don't get me wrong. I just think for mine right now, it just might not be where my consumers' heads are, and like that's what you have to balance sometimes. Like it might be the industry thing that everybody's overhyping, but like it doesn't necessarily always make sense for our consumers, and so we're really, really thoughtful about not jumping on a trend just for trend's sake, but like, are we in fact latching onto something that our consumers really care about? So that one feels like a little overhyped to me right now, to be honest.
The one automated tool that I would love to see a pizza company come up with is telling me when it is the right temperature to bite into the pizza so I don't burn the roof of my mouth. That is all I need. Once we come up with that, we have solved everything.
I know. I'm like, well, give it a couple minutes.
You
But
animal.
hopefully top people are working on this in your R&D
Yes,
department.
yes.
You don't have to
I'm
tell me
not
if they
sure
are.
how high on the list this is, but I'll report back.
I appreciate that. So, Jaclyn, thank you for your time. Before we let you go, I know Valerie and I are most appreciative of your time. We are just going to ask for one more minute.
Yeah, let's do
And
it.
it is a wrap-up speed round that we call Gone in 60 Seconds. So I'm going to put 60 seconds on the clock. We're going to ask you
Okay.
6 questions. Whatever comes to mind, there is no wrong answer. But if there's a wrong answer, we'll let you know that you're wrong. Okay?
Okay.
That sound good?
Love it.
This is Gone in 60 Seconds.
So first question is favorite pizza topping?
Pepperoni.
Okay, good one. I know Papa John's has a number of famous celebrity franchise owners. Who is the best or your favorite with whom you have worked so far?
I mean, this is an obvious answer to me, but Shaquille.
Ah,
Jack, of
I
course.
mean,
the
how
man.
can you not?
Oh, I love that man.
Next question. What's a common or popular word that you hate or that makes you uncomfortable and people don't understand?
I don't know if people don't understand it, but like the word authentic, I'm just like, okay. I'm just sick of hearing it.
I love that.
All right, that is an authentic answer. What, as someone who has accomplished so much and will continue to accomplish a tremendous amount in your career, what was the subject in school that you did poorest in?
Calculus.
Oh,
Because why? When have I used that today?
no, exactly.
I,
If
and
anything, I
especially
use calculator.
if you have pizza pie charts, you don't need calculus. It's pretty straightforward. There's
That's
8
right.
slices, 6 are gone. There's 2
Right.
left. Boom. That's easy.
Easy math.
What is the most overrated KPI or metric that you just wish went away in our industry?
I want to say impressions. And I don't necessarily want it to go away. I just want us to better define it. And this is the former like earned girl who spent so much of her career in the earned media space. It's just like nobody has been able to define the earned impressions in the best way. There's been so many brilliant attempts. And I just think there's a lot to be said for what an earned impression can do for a brand, but they're often like tossed to the wayside because nobody thinks they count. And I just want them to be better defined.
I love this last question.
And the last question, cold leftover pizza for breakfast, yes or no?
100% yes.
100% yes. That is the right answer.
Yeah.
With a Bloody Mary.
Yeah. And cold leftover garlic sauce. Just all of it.
I love it.
That may be where I might have to heat up the sauce, but that's
Try it. Try it cold. Cold with cold.
all right. Well, I may go do that now because it's breakfast time for me. But Jaclyn, thank you again for your time, for sharing your wisdom and expertise with us. I know we've appreciated it, and I'm sure our listeners will as well. Valerie, any parting thoughts?
No, I love you, and it's lovely to see
I
your
love you
face,
too.
and I'm glad that everyone gets to hear you for 40 minutes or whatever it is. So
Yay. Thank you for having me so much. I feel so grateful that you guys chose me to do this. Let's do it again soon.
Well, all that talk about pizza certainly has me hungry. But I'm just an AI creation and have never tasted food. But thank you to Jaclyn Ruelle for her wonderful wit and wisdom. Please don't be shy about sharing the Snarketing podcast with your friends, loved ones, and random strangers on the subway. We appreciate it. Until next time.